Well, you never know how deep anyone's personality is embedded in their childhood, and it certainly seems in his case that there are things from his past that he cannot shake. So it's been very hard for Tyson to sort of cut himself loose from some real emotional problems.
Michael Hursley, the Tribune's boxing writer. That was Friday afternoon after we learned that Mike Tyson was headed back to prison. We're talking boxing this evening and welcoming in John Shaky Suntress from The Score, local boxing expert, alongside here this evening to help us sort things out. Not just the Tyson mess that we want to talk about. We'll talk about kind of boxing on the whole, some other fighters to look at.
Good fights
but
coming up, too.
There are. But I do want to begin, of course, with Mike Tyson. First of all, let me just ask, we are surprised that he got sent back to prison over the incident.
Unfortunately, no. Just like Michael indicated, there's a history of violence in Tyson's past. I mean, you're talking about a guy who spent the majority of his childhood in reform school, has been under protected care, whether it was Customato, Jim Jacobs, Bill Caton after him. But there have been incidents of violence beyond the ear-biting of Holyfield, the alleged rape. It was a conviction, so I guess you do have to call it the rape of Desiree Washington. There was an incident in 1987 when Tyson was a new champion, and he assaulted someone in a parking lot, and they had to settle out of court. There's a lot of history there for the judge to consider beyond just the rape conviction, so no, it's not a surprise.
Let me ask you this then. After the first go-round in jail behind bars when he came out, there wasn't that much left. Anybody who watched the Botha fight knows that. Now he goes back to prison. When he comes out, you know somebody's going to go out there and put together a package, and people will eat it up and buy it on pay-per-view. But what is left, and what is the future of Mike Tyson? Is there anything there in his future?
The Tyson career has already been divided into both the title years and really the road to the title that ended in 1990 with the loss of Buster Douglas and everything that's happened in the 90s. So no, Mike Tyson was shot long before the rape conviction. You go back to really the fights with Razor Ruddock. Tyson really forgot how to move. He forgot how to get out of the way of punches. He doesn't know how to set up punches anymore. We saw an attempt to go back to that style in the Botha fight, but primarily you were looking at a guy who's still headhunting, still looking to take out people with one big shot, and ultimately that's how the Botha fight ended. It was Tyson missing for 4.5 rounds, finally in the 5th coming through with one big shot.
This is the fight. Did you see any flashes of the old Mike Tyson, or was it just an old Mike Tyson?
No, it's the dark side of Mike Tyson. This is just like Tyson Ruddock or Tyson Holyfield. Another fracas in the ring unnecessarily caused by Tyson going too far. And yeah, he's great hugging an opponent after he's already humiliated him and beaten him. But in that first round, it was bad enough. He grabbed onto Botha's arm and was pulling on the arm while pushing with his shoulder into Botha's shoulder, essentially ripping off Botha's arm, and Botha was screaming, rightfully so. It was a ridiculous tactic.
Do you ever see another championship belt in Mike Tyson's future? Saying this knowing that Trevor Berbick just won
the Canadian title. You and I, if we were Canadian citizens, we'd be eligible for the Canadian title and could win.
And we'd be top contenders.
I think, unfortunately, that is the case. But in Tyson's case, with George Foreman at 48, I'm sure anything is possible. But realistically, no. I don't think Tyson's chances of being a real contender. Well, now they're a year away, and if Indiana follows suit and adds another 3 years to the sentence, that's 4 years away. Tyson at 37 is going to try and come back. The only thing he has left is punching, and that is a great equalizer in boxing. But I don't see the skills that brought him to that level. And the other thing that is completely gone, and you saw it in the Botha fight, the fear factor. I mean, Rob, that is the thing that really held Tyson together in those fights in the late 80s. Everyone was scared to death of Tyson. Yeah. The first punch felt like 10,000 times the normal heavyweight's punch. That's not there anymore. Franz Botha can't fight. He can't punch and walk through Mike Tyson's shots and was still there for 5 rounds. Now, the real contenders, the young heavyweights that are coming up, they're not going to be afraid of this guy.
You're right. Now they want to fight him to get the big paydays.
That's right.
This is the reason they're lining up. I heard Bert Sugar was on with you guys on the radio show today, and I thought he made a great point, is that the good thing for boxing is that Tyson now goes away, get rid of the whole circus atmosphere that surrounds this guy, concentrate on some of the things that are good with the sport of boxing, and there is a great heavyweight match coming up between Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield that, forever how long it lasts, will at least for that night unify the title.
Oh, I think it's going to be a very good fight, and I think Evander Holyfield at 35 is vulnerable every time he goes out there, and there's a little bit less of Holyfield, but I still think there is more than enough to take care of Lennox Lewis. Lennox is a big guy, though, 6'5", 250, in shape. The guy can hit. He's got a great right hand. He's a legitimate contender, and yes, he's the WBC title holder right now. You know, you can see the power right there. I mean, these are big shots. Yes, it's Shannon Briggs, but, you know, Evander Holyfield, you know, the only other big guy that's comparable to Lewis that Holyfield has fought was Riddick Bowe, and 2 out of 3 fights, Bowe was the bigger fighter and ended up winning because of his size.
The thing that will happen, though, and Bert, I think, made a good point about this with you guys this afternoon, that whoever wins the fight, suddenly there'll be these mandatory defenses that these guys have to make, and it won't be unified for long. But who do you like in Lewis Holyfield?
Well, I stick with Evander. I mean, the most tenacious heavyweight of his time. There's nobody that tries harder than Evander Holyfield and comes prepared to fight. I think he's finally learned the lessons of conditioning that I think escaped him during some of the Bowe fights, and I think he knows how to prepare. He reminds me a lot of Jordan in his later years, in terms of a guy who understands his capabilities and really knows how to set up the best strategy to face each opponent. Nobody thinks better than Evander Holyfield in the heavyweight division. He is the smartest heavyweight out there, and that will be enough with the crop of heavyweights that are currently fighting.
Doesn't have that dunk in the ring anymore with the fall-away jumper.
That's exactly right, but when he needs to turn it on, he still can, just like Jordan.
All right, we come back. I want to talk about some of the fighters in the lower weight classes. Got a great fight coming up next week, maybe one of the best ones we've seen in a while, with Oscar De La Hoya going to jump in the ring. Get your thoughts on that. We got a trivia question. Throw out your way as well, boxing fans. Put your thinking caps on for this one. And this is what we want to know. Name the only current boxer out there that holds championship belts in 2 different weight classes. This is at least according to when I was on the internet just now, scanning around, that's all I could find. So the only one that's out there in 2 different weight classes. Some guys hold WBA, WBC, but 2 different classes of weight is what we're looking for this answer. We'll come back more with Shaky Suntress right after this.
How does the news affect our lives, our communities, our families? That's what CLTV's Front and Center is all about. Every week, this live show on CLTV covers topics and trends unique to our communities. Education, religion, suburban sprawl, healthcare. Every Thursday night at 5:30, you have the chance to call in and join the program and talk about the issues you care about most. That's Front and Center on CLTV.
How would you like to try out for a dancing job?
The 1999 Nokia MCC Men's Basketball Championship, hosted by the Flames of UIC at the Chicago Pavilion, February 27th through March 2nd. For tickets, call 312-413-UIC1. The road to the big dance starts here.
Discover a world of fishing adventure at Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World. Now's the time to check out all the latest gear. A huge selection of quality fishing equipment, including 1999's hot new tackle and accessories. Plus, get help from people who love the outdoors as much as you do. You'll enjoy the excitement of the outdoors and the comfort of this one-of-a-kind sportsman's paradise. Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World, where all your outdoor adventures begin. I-94 to Route 132 West in the Gurney Mills Mall.
You need a car. What do you do? Where do you go? Option 1, go to a car dealer. Wrong choice. Why? Because this used car will most likely cost you this huge price. That's dealer price. Option 2, First Federal Auto Auction, 63rd and State Street. Someone bought this car for much less than you thought. Save money. It's your choice. Why pay more when you can buy at First Federal Auto Auction, 63rd and State Street?
Evander Holyfield hasn't seen no one like me yet, and there's one thing, well, a lot of good things you can say about Evander Holyfield. You could say he's got a great big heart, he's a warrior, he shows true grit, but there's a lot of good things you can say about me as well that a lot of people are going to realize when I step into the ring with 1 belt and come out with 3.
If you cry out for something, you might get it, and he's been crying for a long time. Now he have an opportunity to get it. I tell you, March 13th, yes, it's not what I feel, it's what I know. I'm going to beat him.
With Don King just pacing in the background.
Like Alfred Hitchcock, you know? I like that. Kind of walk across. I like
get his appearance in there. I'll say one thing. I like the idea of having the heavyweight champ with a British accent. I like that.
Well, I don't.
Lennox Lewis.
I don't. I'm sorry. I'm an American, damn it.
I know.
I'm an American to have damn
Just
title.
sounds good.
Well, I understand. Lennox Lewis had a lot of talent, but you know something? in every big test, he's kind of freaked out. Anytime anyone's really connected with Lennox, he's freaked out. He hasn't had that many big tests. Razor Ruddock was really the only one. Oliver McCall took him by surprise, and it was Oliver McCall, for God's sake. I mean, this guy's, one potato short of a full load. Yeah, I'm telling you. And he had no business being a WBC champion, but was able to beat Lennox Lewis. So there's some questions that have to be answered with Lennox.
John Shaky Suntress, our guest this evening, talking boxing. I said we wanted to talk about the lower weight classes as well and some of the fighters. And one of them I want to welcome on right now on the phone with us. He is Angel El Diablo Manfredy. He's been out here a couple times out here on Sports Page. And Angel, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you guys?
Hey, it's good to hear from you.
Oh, yeah. God bless Thanks for having me.
Hey, let's get people caught up here. Last time we saw you was the Mayweather fight.
Right.
Obviously didn't go according to plan the way you wanted things to happen. What is going on since then, and what's in the future for you?
Well, basically right now I have the March 3rd fight, which is going to be at the Ramada in Chicago. And let the Chicago people and also the Indiana people get a chance to come out and see me. And also we were looking at an April or May fight on HBO against Robert Garcia for the IBF belt. But I wanted to ask the question, to the analysts. I wanted to ask them about the premature stoppage in my fight against Mayweather, which I felt it was very premature, and which my fans didn't get what they were expected in the fight. He caught me with a couple good shots, give or take it. I gave him that. But once I got off the ropes, there was no way. There's no way the fight should have been stopped. There's no way. Look, he's missing a lot of the shots. I'm on the ropes, but once I get off the ropes, there's nothing. There's no way he should have stopped the fight.
Well, Angel, I would have liked to see the fight continue. I do think it was only the second round, and I think as a champion, you deserve the opportunity to fight back. In the referee's defense, though, you were getting hit with some shots, and there were some clean shots. They weren't all landing, but enough of them were, and I guess the repetition, eventually a referee is forced to do something about it. What I would have liked to have seen is just a break or something like that. The smarter and more experienced referees will realize that if you have an early stoppage, it's only going to upset everybody. It's really not going to answer a lot of questions. I don't think that you were out on your feet. I think the only thing that I could say is if you had punched a little bit more, maybe it would have allowed for a later stoppage.
There was no standing 8 count in that fight, correct?
That's true.
No, there's no standing 8 count in Florida.
And the referee claimed he told you or he warned you, but you never heard him say anything?
No, most definitely. He did not. If you review the tape, he did not say nothing to me about throwing punches or nothing of the sort. All that was in my mind was the defense, to slip the shots and then come off the shots and attack. Everybody knows what type of fighter I am. I do take shots in fights, but I come back as a warrior and destroy my opponents, which they didn't give me the opportunity to do. They wanted me to protest the whole fight because of that. I was at first, but then I told myself, you know what? It's a lot of politics involved, and I didn't want to get involved with it. I'm just going to stay strong and come back stronger than ever and destroy Robert Garcia for the IBF and call out Mayweather again.
Well,
I think that's great. I think that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, I admire your testament there, and we all wish you nothing but the best of luck, Angel, and go get Mayweather again. I'd love to see a rematch there and maybe take him apart this time.
Most definitely, most definitely. I do feel, the politics took a little piece from me, stole it from me, but that's okay. The Lord's in my corner. I really won the fight in my eyes, and in the Lord's eyes. I got rid of the devil, and now the angel will rise, and the angel will come back stronger than ever.
Hey, Angel, hang on the line. Mitch, get his number, too, because I want to get you out here before those fights, too, Angel. We'll get you back on the show as well. I do appreciate you calling, and it's always good to hear from you, and wish you nothing but the best of luck from here on out.
God bless.
Okay, thanks,
One of the
Angel
toughest guys at
Manfredy.
130. He still is.
Nice looking tattoos he's got there,
absolutely.
too.
Well, colorful guy, but really, even with the
Nothing on
Mayweather
Rodman
loss, no, definitely not. But even with the Mayweather loss, he's still one of the toughest guys at 130, and I wouldn't count Angel Manfredy out as far as winning another title. It's very likely.
I would agree with you with the point. Yeah, he was getting battered around. A standing 8 count would have been a different result. I have no doubt in my mind that it would have continued at that point. But are referees a little bit gun shy? I mean, I agree with you. I think if you're in a championship fight, the guy's got to get knocked down. Certainly, I think, before you step in and you stop the thing.
It's no different than the NBA.
It's the second round. Maybe it was the 10th round.
Well, that's true. And also, you're right. It's a championship fight. It was between champions as well. And I guess, again, the frustration is, much like a marquee game in the NBA or the NFL, sometimes you have to look beyond the letter of the law and say, okay, this is entertainment. Has there been enough entertainment? Mike Tyson could very well have been disqualified in that Francois Botha fight in that first round, and nobody would have blinked. You got to remember, though, people are paying to see this thing, and I think they deserve a show. And if the fighter is clearly not out on his feet, which I don't think Angel was, then you got to give him the opportunity to continue. By the same token, you have to defend yourself at all times. That's one of the axioms of boxing. So it's a gray area. I would prefer to see the action continue. You can't argue with the referee for making a call like that because, again, Angel wasn't fighting enough.
Great to hear from Angel. I got to take another break. I didn't want to throw the trivia out question there. Not fair for a pro boxer to answer our trivia question here. I'm sure he would know it in a heartbeat. But Chrissy, Bob, Mark, Jim, others, hang on the line. I promise we'll get to your calls when we come back in just a moment.
$250? It's only a little scratch.
Here a scratch, there a scratch, everywhere a scratch. And they're all an eyesore. What you need is GS27 Scratch Remover. It's new from Duralube. GS27 gets rid of those surface scratches and paint swirls quickly and easily. Simply rub GS27 into the scratch, then polish it to a beautiful finish. The scratch is gone.
I still can't believe it was that easy. GS27 got rid of those scratches in less than a minute. It's great.
GS27 is not an abrasive. It's a superfine microscopic crystallite that works its way into the scratch and polishes it away. And look, you don't have to go crazy trying to match colors. That same tube of GS27 works wonders on any color car. You have to see it to believe it. Amazing!
The repair shop said it had to sand, prime, and paint. What a bunch of bull. GS27 took that ugly scratch away in no time.
Watch! Would you do this to a brand new car? Ouch! But GS27 removes that ugly scratch quickly and easily. What a difference! GS27 is so effective, it'll even remove paint scrapes, ugly rust from chrome bumpers, and scratches and scrapes from your boat's gel coat. GS27 is only $14.95. But wait! Order now and get a second tube for only $5. That's two for just $19.95. It'll remove those surface scratches from your car or your money back. Don't live with those ugly scratches and don't spend a fortune to remove them. Order your GS27 Scratch Remover now.
To order GS27, call 1-800-893-3737 or send a check or money order to GS27, 1000 Apex Street, Department GS, Nashville, Tennessee 37206. So call 1-800-893-3737 and order GS27 today.
You see all the Alphabet City right there, so it's going to get decided on Saturday, March 13th. We'll have a unified champion. Hurrah! Finally. When was the last time there was a unified heavyweight champion?
When Tyson fought Spinks, and then was there one after that? I don't think so.
It's been a while.
Has it been 10 years? So
wow.
No, I guess... Yeah, I think it has, actually. Riddick Bowe was the last undisputed champion, and then he threw the WC belt in the garbage, and that's when Lewis picked it up. So we had it for a few years.
Speaking of other championship fights, before I get to the calls, I mentioned earlier, but Oscar De La Hoya, Ike Quartey, this is next weekend?
That's right, next Saturday. Excellent fight. If I could be the Ralph Nader of boxing, I would definitely say this fight is worth getting as far as pay-per-view fights go. You've got two guys really at the top of their game. Oscar De La Hoya is an excellent boxer, puncher. Is the golden boy of the '92 Olympics, has done nothing but beaten every opponent that's come his way. But has never faced anybody with the punching power that Ike Quartey is. You've got Julio Cesar Chavez clearly at the end of his career in this rematch against De La Hoya. Was able to exchange, though, and really gave Oscar a couple tough rounds. You're going to see a lot more tough rounds when Ike Quartey gets in there, though. Ike Quartey is just fantastic. Again, you're watching Oscar here. You got a good boxer, but here's our guy from Ghana, Ike Quartey. And I'm just a big fan. This guy has really had to crawl and grit for everything that he's gotten. Has gone in as the opponent so many times and come out the winner, and is able to cut off the ring and show you power, exactly what you saw right there. Great power punching, precision punching, and just great power. He's a very good fighter. He's not the boxer that De La Hoya is, but he's able to counteract that by cutting off the ring. And look at those crisp shots. The only thing that I worry about with Quartey is at 32, you know, you got to worry about lighter weight fighters once they hit 30 and everything, how much they have left in the tank. Oscar's a young guy who's got years ahead of him left, but I'd like to see Corte win. It'd be a great upset, and it would make the De La Hoya story that much more exciting and a real test in the future. I'd like to see him really challenged. I think you're going to see the closest thing you'll get to that at 147 with like Corte.
Isn't that the knock on De La Hoya, that 6 years into his pro career, I mean, we're sitting here tonight, we're still not sure if he can take a punch or not?
Well, mostly because he's feasted on guys that naturally were a few weight classes underneath him. I mean, when he was a junior lightweight champion at 130, he was fighting guys that were featherweight. When he fought lightweight, he fought guys that were junior lightweights. His best fight at welterweight was against Pernell Whitaker, who made his mark as the lightweight champion. So Corte is a natural welterweight champion, a good puncher again, a guy who's equal in size, I think certainly equal in power. The only edge that De La Hoya has in this is boxing. Oscar does not like to get hit. We saw that in the Miguel Angel Gonzalez fight, a former lightweight champion that was able to hurt and frustrate De La Hoya. It'll be very interesting to see how De La Hoya is able to respond when Corte catches him and if he can hit him hard.
Let's get back to the phone lines. Chrissy in Elgin's been waiting patiently. Hi, Chrissy.
How you doing?
Thanks for hanging in there.
No problem. I just was wondering, besides Holyfield and Lewis, who's the next best prospect to win heavyweight crown?
Who would be some other names under there, and are there any even worth looking at?
Well, it's a big question right now because you've got a lot of retreads, like we've alluded to in the past, that are going to be mandatory challenges. There's a whole slew of young fighters out there, guys like Michael Grant, David Tua, David Aizan. They're decent fighters, but they haven't really been tested yet. And some of these guys, like Michael Grant, he's 29-0. Well, we're still waiting for his first top 10, fight to come up. He still hasn't fought any real contender, and already he's being projected as a future champion. These guys are really going to have to start fighting each other. 3 is going to have to fight 4. 1 and 2, the contenders are going to have to start fighting each other and really create public interest to demand the next fight. Because beyond March 13th, when Holyfield faces Lewis, it's anybody's fight. I really don't think, and you've either got old guys that haven't deserved a chance for a rematch and a bunch of young guys who clearly haven't proven themselves. So there's a lot to do in 99 as far as the heavyweight division goes.
Hey, Chrissy, any idea who currently holds belts in 2 different weight classes?
I'm just going to take a guess and go with Ricardo Lopez.
Good guess.
That's a very good guess.
She knows her boxing. That's a good guess. You know your stuff. Let's get her a gift certificate to Jiffy Lube there for hanging on too, because Chrissy knows her boxing. So hang on the line there. That'll also make you eligible for our big Valentine's weekend giveaway at the Drake Hotel here in Oak Brook. So stay on hold there, Chrissy. Don't hang up. My producer Mitch needs to talk to you. Let me get Bob in Hillside on. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
Good.
Hey, Shaky. How are you?
Good, Bob. Good, Jim.
She kind of good, Slim. She kind of took my thunder away, but really, what's the future of professional boxing in the next 5 years?
That's an essay question. Well, let's get through 99. I mean, I certainly hope a lot of the super fights that we've been talking about really will happen. Not just these welterweight ones. The week after De La Hoya and Whitaker, you've got Trinidad against, or I should say De La Hoya and Corte. You've got Pernell Whitaker fighting Felix Trinidad. That's going to be a great fight at Madison Square Garden. I'm going to go cover that myself. I'm looking forward to it. But I really think that what you're looking for in the future is some champions have to start unifying the title. And it hasn't happened yet, so I don't know if it's going to happen within the next 5 years.
But isn't it funny that even Chrissy would call in that, like it or not, I mean, boxing seems to be perceived, the strength of the heavyweight division equals the strength of boxing.
Oh, that's always been the case. It's always been that much more difficult, for the sport. And luckily, there have been guys in the '80s like the Leonards, the Durants, the Haglers, and the Hearnses to carry on the sport. Right. De La Hoya kind of did that a little bit while Tyson was away in the early '90s. I don't know if I really don't know. The onus is on the 2 major cable outlets that provide boxing, Showtime and HBO. And really, Showtime is just really renting out time to Don King to give out his cards. HBO is really more interested in doing the more competitive fights, and I give them a lot of credit. Their Boxing After Dark series has been made to make an effort to make people more aware of the lighter weight fighters, the Ricardo Lopez's, who actually is on Showtime. But really, you're talking about some of the lighter divisions, even south of lightweight division, where there is some actual interest and good, talented fighters that deserve, fight fans' respect and knowledge.
Hey, Bob, let me get your guess because I got to hit a break here. Do you know who holds the? Who is it?
Holyfield.
It's not Evander Holyfield.
No.
He's only in heavyweight, but that's a good try. Thanks. Bob. Mark and Jim, others, hang on the line. I promise. Got to take another break, but we'll come back with your calls for Shaky Suntress in just a moment.
It's Wolves hockey this weekend at the Rosemont Horizon. The Wolves take on the Orlando Solar Bears Saturday night at 7 and Sunday afternoon at 3.
Question: what are people looking for when they continue their education? To get ahead. They want an education that gives them an advantage. To move up. They want evening and weekend courses that help them move up in management. To be in demand. They want the kind of degree today's companies are looking for. And that's what you get at DeVry and at Keller Graduate School. Choose from a variety of master's degrees at Keller or bachelor's degrees at DeVry. Find out more about our programs for continuing education. Call 1-800-423-7000.
It's a story many Americans only know through history books. Now that story comes to life at the First Division Museum at Cantini. The sounds of history, the price of freedom, the true story of the Big Red One. No division of the U.S. Army has a past more significant, and no tribute brings the past to life like the First Division Museum at Cantini. For information, call 630-260-8161.
And that would be the probably premier fight, best fight in how long, would you say, since we've had a fight of that quality?
At least the last 2 or 3 years.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I think back before the De La Hoya-Whitaker fight is the closest thing you can come up to.
And where is that going to be, this one?
I believe Vegas. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's
Vegas. I thought so. De La Hoya and Corte, and then the following week is the Mayweather-Trinidad fight, which you're going to be out and that's in New York.
At the Garden. Yeah, I can't wait.
At the Garden.
Can't wait. Never covered a fight at the Garden. I'm really looking forward to it.
Not even in a Knicks game?
No, I'm really excited. I've never been to New York before.
Mark.
Jethro, like in the Beverly Hillbillies, man. I'll be stripped the first day. You'll find me naked in the
That's some mental imagery I could have done without tonight. Thanks. Mark and Joliet, how are you?
Pretty good. Shane Mosley against Floyd Mayweather, who wins?
Boy, that's a good fight.
The second question is, we've already talked about some of the other fights. Ike Ibeabuchi, I thought, dominated David Tua, and he's going against the second best defensive fighter in boxing, Chris Byrd. How do you see that fight going?
Well, Chris Byrd is a great defensive fighter. You're absolutely right. I'm waiting for the offense, though, man. He's the lightest hitting heavyweight, and he's like the Pernell Whitaker of heavyweights. I like him, but man, I just like to see him develop any kind of power. And the fact that he doesn't have any, I like Ike. I mean, hey, how's that? How's that, Dad?
There's an original slogan.
Exactly, just like dear old Dad, I like Ike. But man, I'll tell you, that Shane Mosley Mayweather matchup, boy, I hope that happens. The junior lightweight champ against the lightweight champ, 5 pounds of difference, and really just about maybe 7 or 8 fights of experience difference between the two. Actually, maybe closer to 10. But I think Shane Mosley right now has the edge, obviously, in size. But Floyd Mayweather, with apologies to Angel Manfredy, is the fastest guy at lightweight that I've seen in quite a long time. He reminds me a lot of Sugar Ray Leonard. And that first punch that he hit Angel Manfredy with, my God, it came out like a bolt of lightning. And so I think that's an excellent matchup, and man, I hope that happens soon.
And I know it was against a washed-up boogeyman Ferguson, but Andrew Galata looked all right. Do you think we'll ever hear from him again?
You're absolutely right, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because I definitely wanted to give Galata his due. He was originally scheduled to fight Jimmy Thunder, which would have been a knockout fight of 2 punchers, and I really think Galata would have won that fight clearly. But Jesse Ferguson, while 41 years old, is still a very good defensive heavyweight, and Andrew in that fight, and particularly in the Tim Witherspoon fight, you're talking about 2 fighters that are in their 40s, in Witherspoon and also in the boogeyman Ferguson. But I really think Galata has shown patience and the ability to box, and he's a guy who definitely has a punch. He's going to need those fights. Those are good fights for him, especially coming off the first-round loss to Lennox Lewis. And Andrew's got to show that he's got stamina, can go the distance, and be consistent, and I think he's shown that in his last 2 fights. I have a lot of praise for Andrew Galata. He still has a lot to prove, but he will definitely figure in the heavyweight mix in the future, because he needs to redeem himself, and I think he's a very marketable fighter still.
For your trivia, is it Bernard Hopkins?
It is not Bernard Hopkins. I was about ready to give you the prize. Mark, you know your boxing, that's for sure, but the answer is not Bernard Hopkins. So thank you for the call, Mark. I do appreciate it. Jim is in Elmhurst. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Rob. I used to watch you down in Lexington.
Did you?
Yeah.
He's stalking you.
Yeah, he's a stalker here.
No. It's been a bad week for UK.
Yeah, they dropped the 9th in the polls tonight that came out.
Oh, rats. Well, there's always next week. Going back to Mike Tyson, I guess my question, is he sort of symptomatic, do you all think, of what's wrong in professional sports across the board? People like Sprewell, O.J. Simpson, Robinson last week before the Super Bowl.
No, I don't think it's fair to do that. I think you've got, there are a lot of guys, and unfortunately, no. I think, if anything, Tyson is the exception. These other guys.
It only takes 43, 44 bad apples to spoil it for the other two.
Well, yeah, and it's unfortunate, but Mike Tyson made his own bed, and now he has to line it. I know that's a cliche, but Tyson's life has been a cliche. I mean, this is a guy who can't stay out of trouble. And man, I mean, I think of every example you just gave, Mike Tyson had the greatest opportunity to come back and continue business as usual with, no interruption. He made $20 million for that Botha fight. That's ridiculous. That Botha fight was a bogus fight.
And you know what? I think Mike Tyson, no matter what sport you put him in, if he's an NBA player, if he was a baseball player, I still think he probably ends up down the same road right now that he's in.
It's too bad. I really feel for him. I wish, he had the world at his feet. This was the young prince that was soon to be king. I mean, he was the guy that was going to deliver us out of the doldrums of the Larry Holmes era.
And do I read right? Is he near bankruptcy, Tyson?
Yes,
he's lost think of all the paydays he had.
He owes $14 million to the IRS. He owes $8 million still to Kevin Rooney. A lot of guys lost a lot of money with this comeback, and that's unfortunate because you're talking about promoters that had to pay $5 million guaranteed for Tyson's next 2 fights.
Right.
That money is gone. So yes, I do believe that a promoter, when Tyson is out, whether it's a year or 4 years, will be in his future, but he will not get the golden pass that he got in this comeback. Everything was laid out for him. He had good people behind him, people that will take care of your money. Shelly Finkel is one of the best guys to have as an advisor in boxing. He's a guy who protects fighters' money. Every fighter who's been with Shelly Finkel, when they've left him, have always had a sizable trust fund that they could count on for retirement. Mike Tyson had that opportunity, and he blew it because Shelly Finkel is not going to waste time on Mike Tyson.
I tell you, Jim, I think where sports and television are headed, I say that before he gets out of prison, we see him fight behind bars.
Oh, no.
They'll
James
televise
Sonny
it.
Scott. Remember James Sonny Scott from the 70s?
I'm telling you.
It would not surprise me if that happened.
Someone will set it up.
I have a feeling that Nevada is going to do the right thing, and if Tyson is indeed going back and staying there, I think his license is coming.
I grew up in the late 60s and in the 70s, and, people can say what they want about Muhammad Ali's flamboyance, but I still think he brought a lot of dignity and really integrity to the sport of boxing.
Well, I agree with you. I think once he got his license back, Ali's second career, unlike Tyson's, was a love affair, really, with the people. And I think in the 60s he was one of the more hated champions. But I think people really turned around, and Ali was life of the party and just so much fun. And he's still so much fun. That's the one thing I feel for him with his Parkinson's. But the man makes the best of it and is not a stranger to the public and is always greeted so warmly and treats everybody great. And you always feel good leaving him. So even in his poor condition, he's still a great time, and he's still the greatest. He's really one of the greatest influences of the 20th century. No doubt.
Jim, I got to get your guess here because I got to hit a break.
Is it Oscar De La Hoya?
It is not De La Hoya. It's a good try, though. I appreciate the phone call. Good to hear from you. And speaking of Ali, that's my brush with greatness, by the way.
I met him.
Shared a flight back with him from
that's cool.
From Las Vegas back to Kentucky. The most amazing thing of the whole story.
Is it Oscar De La Hoya?
It is not De La Hoya. It's a good try, though. I appreciate the phone call. Good to hear from you. And
turned around, and Ali was always just a really good guy in the life of the party and just so much fun, and he's still so much fun. That's the one thing I feel for him with his Parkinson's, but the man makes the best of it and is not a stranger to the public. Always greeted so warmly and treats everybody great, and you always feel good leaving him. So even in his poor condition, he's still a great time, and he's still the greatest. He's really one of the greatest influences of the 20th century. No doubt.
Jim, I got to get your guess here because I got to hit a break.
Is it Oscar De La Hoya?
It is not De La Hoya. It's a good try, though. I appreciate the phone call. Good to hear from you. And speaking of Ali, that's my brush with greatness, by the way.
I met him.
Shared a flight back with him from
that's cool.
From Las Vegas back to Kentucky. The most
here.
Good try, though. I appreciate the phone call. Good to hear from you. And speaking of Ali, that's my brush with greatness, by the way.
I met him.
Shared a flight back with him from.
That's cool.
From Las Vegas back to Kentucky. The most amazing thing of the whole story is that he was flying coach. From Las Vegas back to Kentucky. The most amazing thing of the whole story is that he was flying coach.
But you know, that's Ali. That's the great thing, man. This is not a limo guy. This is a McDonald's drive-in kind of guy. That's the beauty of Muhammad Ali.
I was flying coach, naturally. That's not a surprise. Mike and Steve, hang on the line. We'll get to your phone calls right after this. Upcoming fights, and this is one that Shaky Suntress will be in attendance for, correct?
Oh, I can't wait.
What's the attraction? What do you like there?
Man, Trinidad is just a young phenom, and that's what's waiting for the winner of the Corte de la Hoya fight.
Whitaker's had his personal problems, correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's been 18 months since Whitaker's been in the ring. He went through drug rehab. He had a cocaine problem. He's licked it, to his credit. But this is a guy who really never was an offensive fighter. The greatest defensive fighter, Bert Sugar and I were talking about it today on the score. He's the best since Willie Pepin. Everyone agrees. Used to go through fights and not lose a round, and would do that, you know, fight after fight. So, I mean, one of the consistently great artists of the game. When you go through rehab and come back, the reflexes may not be there. So I'm a little concerned about Whitaker. We could be seeing the end of really one of the great legends of the '84 Olympics.
Let's go back to the lines. Mike in Berwyn. Hey, Mike, you were our grand prize winner Friday night, weren't you?
I sure was.
You're heading out to the Casablanca Resort, play a little golf, a little relaxation at their nice golfing spa.
Definitely. Thank you for that.
Hey, good guess you had.
I got two quick questions.
Yes.
One is who can beat Roy Jones Jr. and what happened or where is Riddick Bowe?
Two good questions.
Well, I'll take your first question first, unlike most athletes. Roy Jones Jr., no one's going to beat Roy Jones Jr. because Roy Jones and HBO, I don't think, are really willing to take the necessary pay cut to pay some of these guys that are out there that would maybe make for interesting fights. There's, and it's Darash Mikoshla. And I know I'm saying his name wrong, but that's the only time you're ever going to hear me say that name. He's from Germany. He's the WBO light heavyweight champion. It would be great to see Roy Jones fight him. I think Jones has the edge in that fight, but Mikoshla is actually a pretty good rough and tough fighter, so it might be interesting. But Jones isn't willing to pay him what Mikoshla is asking for. Mikoshla is a champ. He deserves a parity. And he's been a good champ, and he's been a long-standing champ. Jones knows he's the draw, though, won't budge, therefore the fight won't happen. Steve Collins wants to fight Roy Jones. Irish guy, pretty good fighter. Again, probably Jones has the nod. But Roy Jones is not willing to move up in weight and go in and just take charge. He'll go up in weight a little bit, but, you know, he's just a pick-and-choose guy with his opponents. And quite frankly, it's been a waste of talent, and really, he is one of the disappointments of the 90s. As great as Roy Jones is, his unwillingness to truly go out there and beat everybody. And, you know, fine, if we can't make the fight at $10 million, let's take $5 million. He's not willing to do that. Well, you know something? Ultimately, you must compete. And going 15 months at a time without title defenses, you're not Marvin Hagler. That was the only guy that could get away with crap like that. And Roy Jones is not Marvin Hagler. And so, as talented as he is and as great as he is, big disappointment. As far as, what was the other question?
You see that? You answered the first one, now you forgot the second one.
Down and
now you are like most athletes.
What was the other question?
Riddick Bowe.
Riddick Bowe,
where is he?
Well, man, after that bizarre stuff with the Marines,
right?
You know, he turned his tail and he ran. I mean, Rock Newman made Riddick Bowe so much money, and Rock Newman was the only guy that was willing to put up with Riddick Bowe's garbage. Eddie Futch walked away from him. Every decent guy that's been involved with Riddick Bowe has had to walk away from him. And finally, Rock couldn't take it anymore when Riddick, after saying, yes, I'll do the Marine thing, couldn't handle basic training. It got to be so much of an embarrassment. You know, Riddick doesn't need the money. He made a ton of money in the short time that he was champion, and it's in his best interest. He might come back. You might see him come back. And as we were talking about, Trevor Berbick at 46 is the Canadian heavyweight champion again.
Right.
So certainly anything is possible. We nearly, thank God, missed a Holmes Foreman fight, two guys at 50 fighting each other.
Wow.
So no one is clearly retired.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, Archie
Moore
had a chance of coming back before he finally passed away at 83 in December. You know that. That's
Let me get your guess, Mike. Go for the daily double here. Big winner Friday night.
I'll say Roy Jones Jr., but it's not right.
It's not right. That's a good try, though. We may not even give this thing away here.
No, Roy's not willing to fight at other weight classes and stuff.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, thank you. Let me get. I'll give you even the weight class. It's you got to go. Got to drop down in weight class. Yeah, lower weight class.
Think light.
Steve in Cedar Lake, Indiana. How are you, Steve?
I'm just fine. I want to make a comment about his first statement, which was Mike Tyson wouldn't have a chance once he gets out of prison. I tend to differ with that a little bit because of the fact of a puncher always has a chance to come back and take somebody out. I think his biggest problem at this point with his life is that he's tied up with the wrong people, and his so-called managers that are backing him up are really just big brutes.
I think you're thinking of the team that was with. Wait a minute. I really
he changed his team, right? Isn't Magic Johnson somewhere involved?
Yeah,
somewhere involved in all this too?
The guys that Mike Tyson had working for him right now are very responsible guys, and to be honest with you, the current team Tyson they're as honorable as you're going to get in boxing, and that might be an oxymoron, but these are not the same guys that were handling his career during the Don King years, and certainly they tried. Mike Tyson has always been under care, and that's one of the big problems with Mike Tyson from a personal level. This is a guy who, went from, being a kid who grew up on the streets, had a very tough family life, had to go to Tryon, the reform school, went under the care from Tryon to the care of Customano, then went to the care of Jim Jacobs, and then to the care of Don King. I mean, this is a guy who has led a very insulated life, and that really is, a few of the reasons why he keeps getting in trouble.
Hey, Steve, I hate to cut you off here, but I do got to get to my final break, but let me try to get your guess here to our trivia question. Do you know who's got the 2 belts in 2 different weight classes?
He's a middleweight, but you know what? On top of that, I forgot his name. He is the announcer for HBO, but I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
Actually, I think he's lower than middleweight.
Yeah, you were thinking of Roy Jones, I think. But
Roy Jones, correct.
It's not Roy Jones. Roy Jones holds the WBA and WBC belts, but in the same weight class.
A couple years ago, he did actually hold titles at different weights, but he no longer does. Right?
All right, well, we'll take our final break. We'll come back. We'll see if we can get one more caller in that might have the answer. Otherwise, we'll let the folks out there, we'll clue them in on that and wrap things up with Shaky right after this.
There are 2 kinds of...
There's more on the Bulls-Clippers game in the sports section of tomorrow's Trib. Bulls hanging on in that one, up 69-60 late in the third, plus a report on who the Chicago Fire got in that MSL draft and a complete college basketball roundup. Also, Blackhawks coverage, all in the sports section of tomorrow's Trib. Final couple of moments here with John Shaky Suntress, local boxing expert from The Score. And you're telling me you got a little web page, Mr. Internet Boy, that you are?
The powers that be gave me a little space on the Score website. So if you go to chicago.sidewalk.com, and you click on Shaky's Fight Corner, I do a weekly report and made predictions on this weekend's fights. Unfortunately, it was submitted prior to the Tyson conviction, so my thoughts on that will be coming this coming weekend.
Okay, but, something to look forward to.
Certainly there for your email and your thoughts. Would love to talk with fight fans.
Well, let me try to get Steve from Naperville on here. Steve, I've only got about a minute for you. Sorry.
Okay, I'll be quick. No problem. My question is, and you kind of touch on this a little bit about Roy Jones fighting as a heavyweight. What other fighters would be good matchups to beef up in weight? Oscar De La Hoya is pretty tall. Could he fight Roy Jones?
I don't think he could fight Roy Jones, but I do expect to see Oscar De La Hoya at some point fight junior middleweight, possibly 160, but certainly I think 154 is in his future and can't wait. I mean, that's the great thing about the lighter weight fighters. You wonder how far they can go and can they continue their dominance? Will their power carry up with them to the upper classes? We didn't see that with Pernell Whitaker. He became a less effective fighter at 140 and 147. We'll see what happens with De La Hoya as he rises.
Well, let me get your guess, Steve. Who's the guy that holds belts in 2 different weight classes?
I'm pretty sure I don't know this. How's Wilfredo Vasquez sound?
No.
Sounds good. It's not the correct answer, but
okay.
It's a nice
Does
sounding
he still hold a belt? I don't even know.
He was a bantamweight champion. I don't know. We got the list over here. We're going to have to look
We're
at
gonna
that.
We'll have to show everybody the winner here. Nobody got this one. I thought I was going to do who holds the WBA, WBC, but Roy Jones too easy, so that's why I came up with this one. The answer is Johnny Tapia. He holds the WBA bantamweight title and the IBF junior bantamweight title, and he's the only one I could find on the list here that holds 2 different weight classes as your champion. So the answer to that was Johnny Tapia. No winner there this evening. So
115
I tell you what,
118.
if Steve
a roll
is still,
of quarters. If he has a roll of quarters in his pocket, then he's a bantamweight.
Is Steve still on there, Mitch? We can give him the last certificate that we have if he's still there. If not, maybe we carry it over till tomorrow night. Dave Kaplan will be on. Yeah, you could use a little lube job, I think. Dave Kaplan's here tomorrow night. We'll be talking some college hoop. We'll see you then. Always a fun time with Shaky Suntress. Nice to see you. Good night, everybody.